Welcome to Life Stories. Today, we're sharing a powerful story about standing up for yourself and finding strength in the most unexpected places. Emily Dawson, a young woman who had always played by the rules, is faced with betrayal from her own family on what should have been the happiest day of her life, her engagement party. As secrets unravel, she must fight not just for her wedding, but for her peace, dignity, and future. A journey of heartbreak, resilience, and personal growth awaits. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to begin today's story. My name is Emily Dawson. I'm 30 years old, and for most of my life, things have moved steadily along. I work as a graphic designer in Ridgewood, a city that's big enough to have its own character, but small enough to feel like home. Nothing too extravagant, but enough to make me appreciate the little joys. I was never the type to get swept up in the idea of grand events, but tonight felt different. It was our engagement party, and everything was perfect. The restaurant was softly lit, casting a warm glow on the faces around me. The tables were adorned with camel-colored centerpieces that matched the gentle hues of the evening. The music was just loud enough to fill the silences, but soft enough to let conversations flow. There was the scent of fresh flowers in the air, mixing with the soft clinking of glasses. Everything felt right, like the universe had aligned for this moment. Jake stood by my side, tall and reassuring as always. His hand rested gently on the small of my back, offering support without a single word. It had been 4 years since we met. We were introduced when he joined the creative department at the marketing firm where I worked. We connected quickly at a company offsite retreat, and the rest of our relationship fell into place naturally after that. Jake was the kind of person who made everything easier, not because life was simple with him, but because he believed in us. He was dependable, kind, smart, and, above all, he respected me and the dreams we shared. Tonight was the beginning of something bigger. In just 4 months, we'd be married. We'd be starting a new chapter of our lives, one that we'd carefully planned for. We had our share of challenges, yes, but nothing could shake my belief in us, in our future. Our closest friends and family were all gathered here to celebrate with us. As I scanned the room, I saw so many familiar faces, old college friends, coworkers, and people who had been with us through the years. But then I spotted them, my parents, Diane and Robert Dawson. They sat near the front watching the room, their smiles looking stiff and forced. My younger sister Lily was there too, but she was distant, scrolling through her phone like she was somewhere else entirely. It was nothing new. Lily and I had never been close. As the years passed, the distance between us only grew, leaving us with little in common. We never talked much, and that suited me just fine. I tried to push the unease aside. Tonight wasn't about the past, about old family dynamics. It was about the love I shared with Jake, the commitment we were making, and the new chapter ahead. Or so I thought. My mother, Diane, stood up, gently tapping her wine glass with a spoon. The sound rang through the room, and every conversation fell silent. All eyes turned toward her. She had a way of commanding attention without raising her voice. She smiled, but there was something cold in her eyes. It was a smile I knew well, one that was almost mechanical. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" she asked. Her voice carried, sweet but with a sharp edge. "First, I want to say congratulations to my beautiful daughter Emily and her wonderful fiancé Jake. I hope your marriage is full of love, joy, and happiness." Polite clapping followed. Glasses were raised in a quiet toast, and Jake squeezed my hand. I smiled at him, grateful for this moment. But then, my mother's smile faded, and her voice shifted. It was colder now, more deliberate. She set her glass down with purpose. "I also have an important announcement to make," she continued, her eyes scanning the room. "After talking it over with Robert, we've decided to give Emily's $45,000 wedding fund to Lily instead." The room went dead silent. A soft chuckle escaped my lips, surely a nervous reaction. I looked around, expecting someone else to join in, to laugh with me, but no one did. "That's funny, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "But that money is mine. I'm not giving it away." Diane's smile vanished completely, and her expression hardened, as if she'd been preparing for this moment all along. "This isn't a joke, Emily," she said sharply. "Your sister is getting married a few months after you, and she needs the money more than you do." A hot wave of anger rushed to my face. I could feel my heart pounding, and my stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" "That's my money, Mom. You and Dad gave it to me. It's in my personal account." Her voice softened with forced calm, like she was trying to convince me of something I knew wasn't true. "Honey, you have a good job. So does Jake. Lily and her fiancé are struggling. She deserves to have a beautiful wedding, too." My hands began to tremble. It was happening. It was all happening so fast, and I couldn't understand it. "We've already planned our wedding with that money. We've been careful with it. We're being smart. We even wanted to use some of it for a down payment on a home. You can't just take it away." Before I could say anything more, Lily suddenly pushed her chair back, jumped to her feet, and snapped at me. "Don't be so selfish, Emily," she hissed. "You could have offered to share it a long time ago. You know I need it more than you do." I turned toward her, my jaw clenched. "This isn't about need, Lily. It's about what's right. I planned ahead. You blew through your own fund and now you expect me to hand mine over?" "Stop being so dramatic," my mother barked. "Lily doesn't have much. Her fiancé is doing the best he can. You've always had more." "I've always worked harder," I shot back, folding my arms across my chest. "I saved. I planned. I don't care how you spin it. I'm not giving you my money." The tension in the room became unbearable. I could feel my chest tightening. Jake placed a hand on my arm, trying to calm me, but I wasn't backing down. Then, in a moment that felt like it stretched into forever, my mother stepped forward and slapped me across the face. The sound echoed through the restaurant like a whip crack. My head snapped to the side, and the sting on my cheek was immediate. But it wasn't just the physical pain. It was the shock, the betrayal. My eyes welled up, not just from the pain, but from the realization of what had just happened. The room fell silent. No one moved. Even Lily looked stunned, as if she had never seen this side of my mother. I slowly turned back toward Diane, my voice steady but low. "You don't get to hit me just because I said no." The silence that followed my mother's slap was deafening. It hung in the air like a thick, unspoken weight, and the shock of it seemed to drain the life from my body. My cheek throbbed, but it was the emotional sting that lingered the longest. The faces of the guests around me were frozen in disbelief, and I could feel their uncomfortable glances. Some seemed unsure of whether to intervene, but no one did. It was like a collective silence had taken over the room. Jake's grip on my arm tightened, his expression fierce, but I was too shaken to speak. The situation escalated further when, only days later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from a law firm, Hall and Sutter Associates. My heart sank as I tore it open. My parents were suing me. They claimed the $45,000 wedding fund wasn't meant for my wedding, it was only for college expenses, and I had misused it. I was stunned. The money was legally mine, set aside by my parents when I was 17 in a custodial account. At 19, I gained full control over it, and they'd always told me I could use it however I saw fit. The only difference between me and Lily was that I had been responsible. I'd used a portion for my public university education and saved the rest. Meanwhile, Lily had dropped out of college after 2.5 years, spent the remainder of her fund on a failed business venture, and then used the rest to buy herself a luxury car. I couldn't fathom how they could even attempt to claim that the money was never meant for my wedding. It was a petty move, an act of desperation to cover for Lily's mistakes. I hired an attorney named Brianna Lane. Brianna was sharp, confident, and didn't hesitate to assure me that my parents didn't have a case. She went over all the documents, all the transactions, and all the records. "They don't have a case," she told me. "The account was gifted to you. There are no restrictions on how you use it. Any mention of a verbal agreement won't hold up in court." I was relieved, but my anger only grew. Why was this happening? Why were my parents doing this to me? Brianna shrugged when I asked her. Some people would rather drag you down than admit they made mistakes, especially when they're protecting someone else. Her words resonated with me, and in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a legal battle. It was a lifetime of favoritism, denial, and imbalance. My mother wasn't just trying to take my money. She was trying to cover up Lily's failures by making me pay for them. As the weeks passed, the legal battle became all-consuming. The constant emails, filings, discovery requests, and multiple hearings drained me physically and emotionally. Every time I stepped into the courtroom and saw my parents sitting beside Lily, I could feel the weight of their disapproval. It was like I was being judged for trying to stand up for myself. Lily wore a smug expression at every hearing, clearly confident that she'd somehow walk away with my money. One particular session felt like a breaking point. Lily was on the stand, stating that the fund had always been meant for college expenses. Brianna stood and asked her, "Did you use all of your funds strictly for college expenses?" Lily hesitated, her eyes shifting nervously. "Well, not all of it," she muttered. Brianna didn't let her off the hook. "In fact, you dropped out of college and used the remaining amount for your own business venture and a luxury car, didn't you?" Lily's face tightened with discomfort. "That's not relevant," she snapped. "Oh, but it is," Brianna said calmly, her voice cutting through the room. "If there were supposedly strict conditions on this money, why were you allowed to use it for non-educational purposes without objection?" Lily had no answer, and the courtroom saw it. The contrast between my careful planning and Lily's recklessness was undeniable. As I sat there quietly listening, I realized that this case was about so much more than money. It was about respect, responsibility, and the painful truth that my family had never seen me for who I was, someone who followed the rules, who worked hard, and who tried to protect what she had built. And now they were doing everything in their power to take it away from me. The weight of everything that had happened, my mother's slap, the lawsuit, the lies, felt suffocating. I had never imagined that something as simple as a wedding would unravel the fabric of my family in such a devastating way. But now, as the day of the wedding arrived, I couldn't escape the undercurrent of tension. There was a strange mixture of excitement and dread coursing through me, not from the vows we'd be exchanging, but from what I knew could still happen. Jake and I had chosen a quiet, elegant outdoor venue just outside of Ridgewood. Nothing extravagant, but beautiful in its simplicity. White chairs lined the grassy garden, all facing a wooden arch draped in fresh flowers. The venue was personal, meaningful to us, and we had done everything to ensure it was perfect. Despite everything that had happened, despite the family betrayal and the legal battles, I was determined that nothing would take away the joy of this day. As I stood in the bridal suite, adjusting my veil, I could feel the nervous energy building up inside me. I wasn't just worried about the ceremony or the vows. I couldn't relax because a part of me still feared what my family might do. We had security stationed at the entrance, instructed to deny entry to anyone from my immediate family. I had done everything I could to protect this day, but the fear that they might still try to ruin it loomed over me. Around 2:15 in the afternoon, the door to the bridal suite opened. One of the security guards stepped inside, his expression serious. "Miss Dawson," he said quietly, "we've detained a young woman attempting to enter through the back service gate. She matches the photo you gave us. It's your sister, Lily." My stomach dropped. "Is she alone?" I asked, my voice tight with tension. "Yes," the guard replied, "but she was carrying a tote bag." My heart raced. "What was in the bag?" The guard hesitated. "When we opened it, we found a large can of red paint." My breath caught in my throat. My worst fear had come true. Lily had planned to ruin everything. My wedding, my dress, the venue. She had tried to sabotage this day in the most brazen way imaginable. Rage, sadness, and disbelief washed over me all at once. My sister, the person who had always felt entitled to what I had now gone so far as to destroy my happiness. I had never felt so betrayed in my life. The guard's voice broke through my thoughts. "Do you want to press charges? We can contact the local sheriff right now." I stood there for a moment, torn between anger and exhaustion. The thought of involving the police again made my chest tighten. But then I thought about everything I had already lost: the slap, the lawsuit, the false rumors, and I knew that I couldn't let her get away with this. Not again. Not today. No, I said, my voice flat. Just make sure she's removed from the property and doesn't come back. Please check that my parents haven't tried to sneak in as well. The guard nodded and left, and I sank into a nearby chair, trying to keep from crying. It was as though I had been pulled into a whirlwind of pain and chaos that I couldn't escape. My best friend, Isabel, knelt beside me. "What happened?" she whispered. I looked at her, my voice barely holding steady. Lily tried to sneak in with a can of paint. She was going to destroy everything. Isabel's eyes widened in shock and then hardened with fury. "You know what that means? You win," she said firmly. "They couldn't stop your happiness, so they tried to ruin it. But you stopped them. You stood your ground. Now go marry the man who stood by you through it all. You deserve every bit of this day." Her words pierced through the fog of emotion I had been trapped in. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and stood up. With Isabel's steady hand on my shoulder, I walked out of the suite and into the garden where Jake was waiting. As I stepped down the aisle, my eyes locked with Jake's. In that moment, the noise of the world fell away. The drama, the betrayal, the lies, they all faded into the background. All that mattered was him and me and the future we were about to build together. The ceremony was everything we had hoped for: simple, heartfelt, and filled with love. We exchanged vows that spoke of strength, loyalty, and partnership. And when the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the guests erupted into applause, and I finally felt free. After everything, after all the pain, there was finally peace. The reception was everything I dreamed of: laughter, music, heartfelt speeches. Isabel gave a toast that made me cry, but they were soft tears, tears of relief, of knowing that I had fought for myself and had won. As the night wound down, Jake and I slipped away under the stars, running hand in hand through a shower of rice thrown by our friends. We climbed into the car, waiting at the curb, and as we drove away, I looked back at the glow of the venue. Lily had tried to ruin that moment, but she failed. They all did, and we were free to begin our new life. The days after the wedding were quiet, and for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. Jake and I settled into our new home, focusing on building our future together. We decorated our apartment with care, each piece representing a step toward the life we had envisioned. I found joy in the little things: weekend mornings spent sipping coffee, nights spent talking about our dreams, and the way our home slowly came together. But the echoes of my family's betrayal lingered. My mother never reached out, and Lily blocked me on everything. My father chose silence, avoiding any confrontation. It was hard at first. I had always imagined that one day things would be different, that my family would see me for who I was, not as someone to manipulate or control. But as the days went by, I began to understand that family wasn't just about blood. It was about those who respect your boundaries and celebrate your victories. Months later, I ran into my cousin at the grocery store. She mentioned Lily's lavish wedding, funded by a loan my parents took out. I wasn't surprised. They had always favored Lily, even when she didn't deserve it. But in a way, it didn't matter anymore. I had everything I needed: Jake, our home, and the peace that came from standing my ground. In the end, I realized something profound. Love isn't conditional on obedience or on meeting others' expectations. I had chosen to protect myself, to fight for my happiness, and in doing so, I built a life filled with freedom. No amount of money, manipulation, or deceit could take that away. If you found this story moving or relatable, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy real-life inspired stories with strong emotions and satisfying endings, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new upload. See you in the next story.